Hello, and be welcome to the world of darkness. Long ago was it that the sin of Cain spawned the cursed horror that stalks the street at night in search of living blood. The kindred have long been a secret influence through all ages of human history, plotting against one another in a never-ending jihad. Their immortal progeny are among us to this day, hidden from the eyes of humanity by an elaborate masquerade. As you rush out of the church, you catch Charnock just as he is climbing into the back of his carriage. At your swift approach, the man holding open the door to the carriage steps once towards you, his hand still holding open the door, as he reaches under it, pulling out just enough for you to see a revolver.
I will slow down my approach and wait patiently, waving a handkerchief.
The man holding the gun and door, quiet for a moment before he asks, "You have business, father?" It's when Charnock leans his head out of the carriage to look at you, his face no longer having that big white smile. Now he just has this arched eyebrow. The rest of his face completely slack in its expression.
I look around, making sure that no one is watching us other than the carriage driver.
Most of the parishioners had left already. There is one or two people you can see further ahead on the more active roads walking, but not within easy earshot unless they were to deliberately stop, turn, maybe even come down the road a little more to hear. And even then, humans won't hear much at a distance.
I say in a calm but quiet voice, having thought about your proposal, I must make a alteration, if that is acceptable.
The carriage creaks a little. You can see Charnock move, his hands bracing on either side of the doors. He lowers the first one and then the other foot climbing out. He reaches back in to clasp his cane and walks towards, striking it on the stone, approaching. Stopping some 3 feet ahead of you, his cane clasped in his hand, butt resting on the stone. The gaslight of the nearby lantern illuminating his back. He waits, patient.
I care much for Mr. and Miss Thorne, and the idea of going behind their back, at least when it comes to being changed, does not sit well with me.
Did I say it would be me embracing you?
I shook my head. I did not expect it.
I guaranteed that you would receive embrace. And as you might happen to know, I am quite close to Miss Thorne, and I am acquainted with Edmund.
I have a feeling that I will get there on my own. But there is another matter that perhaps you could handle in its place, or someone you know.
Pulling the left hand off of the cane, he, with the right, pops it up into the air, catching it and resting the head of it on your shoulder. Hurry up and tell me what this is about. I'm starting to feel peckish again.
Of course. As I was in the mausoleums in the Tower of London, I stumbled upon a creature, a bird, if you will, massive, large. It killed two of my acquaintances who were helping me with retrieving Miss Thorne's item. I fear won't be long before it catches up with myself. Whether I be with Miss Thorne, I am trying to avoid. Though,
what's an alertness? You can see Charnock's face immediately becomes rigid like stone. The way he's looking at you is no longer in any resemblance human. Instead, it looks like you're staring into the eyes of a rabid wolf about to rip out your throat, and you can see his shoulders square, his left hand beginning to move.
Quickly rushing to finish what I was about to say. Actually, better yet, I think I'll quiet down for a moment until told to.
He doesn't stop his motion. Instead, he snatches you by the throat and with a frightening ease lifts you off your feet so you are suspended in the air. The iron grip he has on you begins to turn your face a shade of light blue as you struggle to breathe. I thought I asked you if she was in any danger over that nonsense.
She isn't.
Your words seem to say otherwise. He drops you from his grip.
I'm particularly avoiding her presence at the moment, as to avoid drawing it upon her.
He snaps the butt of his cane on the ground. Unacceptable. She has need of your services for whatever reason. I'm not sure. This creature from the Tower of London, yes? Some big bird of some description.
Correct.
And it wants you in particular dead.
Probably, yes.
He points the head of the cane at you. Later this evening, you are going to come with me. And we're going to lay a trap for this giant fucking pigeon. And then when I am done peeling the wings off of this beast, you can take it back to my lovely Thorne.
I see we had the same idea.
And I'll even let you claim that you accomplished it by some means. You better think of a good lie. However, holy man, now I'm upset. For he is what you are going to acknowledge. If you under any circumstances tell Ms. Rebecca about your dealings with me, I will expose you to the church and to kindred. You'll have nowhere to run and you will be hunted down and torn to pieces. And it will be by someone with far less remembrance of their humanity than I understood.
Of course, Mr. Charnock.
Get up. It's not befit a holy man to be on the floor.
I look at him and I mutter something. I would not tell anyone. I care for Edmund's and Rebecca's opinion too much.
As any good ghoul should. He gestures to his over his shoulder with the cane. The man who's still holding the gun. Who, frankly, the look he's giving you is Charnock so much as hints to this guy to get you out of his sight. You might take that as a forever. That good old ghoul loyalty. Charnock, however, rests the head of the cane on your chest, rolling it back and forth in place. This beast is from the tower. He taps the cane against your chest. So we'll lure it to the King's Stairs Gardens on the south of the Thames.
Understood. I will meet you outside
I'll stay near the water. I like watching the ships, and there's a beautiful pub there. You had best come before the evening gets too late, or it's not just the raven whose feathers are up. Now, go about your business, holy man, and don't think that collar will save you. I was a Catholic, not Anglican. With that, he turns with a flap of his cape and re-enters into his carriage, shutting the door himself. The ghoul merely looks at you, blinks as though a little uncertain as to if he's supposed to say something, before giving you a polite bow before excusing himself.
Putting my top hat back on, probably one that has fallen off during the incident, I would give it a tip towards him.
Climbing back onto the carriage, the man utters a "Good night, father," before motioning the horses to begin their clop. Sound of the hoof growing distant as they make their way down the street and around the left corner, heading south.
As Thomas would come in, Rebecca would be sitting on the sofa closer to the fireplace. The lights are on, providing a gentle, warm hue to the surrounding. The books, having been meticulously, almost to an obsessive degree, ordered on the bookshelves, alphabetical order. You see this lovely bouquet of flowers on the piano in the far right corner of the room. Beautiful arrangement. And a small plate, most of the biscuits having eaten, left on the little coffee table in front of the chair. That is where Rebecca sits, one hand over the other in her lap as she simply waits.
Shaking the young man's hand, Mr. O'Connell would give him a tip of the top hat, and then proceed inside, where he would wait in the corner of the room to be addressed, holding a package under his left arm.
Rebecca gives an inclination of the head for him, motioning him to step into the room.
Walking in, Mr. O'Connell would have a bit of a stiff posture. You could say a bit of a limp as he set the package on the coffee table, it being no bigger than a shoebox wrapped up in perhaps old Christmas paper.
My dude, they didn't have Christmas paper then. They had
Newspaper then.
Oh, they had wrapping paper. It was just much simpler and usually had like silk ribbon and such.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Looking over to him, she simply asks, "Is this what I requested?"
That and a bit more.
I take the box, setting it in my lap, and unwrap it, looking inside.
Inside would be 3 or so very old bones, the ones Thomas was able to pull from that grave. Thomas would have a seat and explain.
Rebecca would hold up a hand. "Mr. O'Connell, I did not say that you could sit. I want a full report on the task I had you perform."
Of course, he would gasp a bit as he explained. Well, it was very simple. I acquired some help and proceeded to the Tower of London's cemetery. I figured if we were looking for older bones, that was the best place to look. We proceeded inside one of the isolated mausoleums after I made my way around the guards, and then my men were killed, and I was forced to call upon external help. You see, inside that mausoleum, apparently, was a very angry wraith, and it was not exactly happy that I was currently rummaging about its nether regions. And so I after I'd realized what it was, I was able to use what I had to dispatch it. Or at least banish it for a while.
Manipulation, subterfuge, night, perception, and empathy. You're not certain. Something about his story just doesn't line up. Out of character to explain, both of you have 4 successes. Effectively, you can't be certain he's lying, though something feels off. And Thomas, your lie, while not penetrated, isn't really holding much water.
Rebecca listens silently to what he says, at the end giving Thomas a long, hard stare, gaze unwavering, bearing down on him. All the while her bright silver eyes flow in mesmerizing swirls with an otherworldly fluidity. She then says, "Mr. O'Connell, I do hope you are telling me the truth," and I use dominate.
Thomas, you feel your own will, your own self, your very independent thought suddenly broken down as a sudden clear-headedness fills, an almost grounded feeling as you are hyper-aware, and out of your own control, you begin to tell the whole truth of what happened.
Most of it was true. It wasn't a wraith, it was a large, angry bird. It seemed to have slight control over the birds around it. I noticed it as I was entering, and then when I was at the grave itself, the birds seemed to stare at me and my party intently. They died horribly, might I add to you. They dropped their lantern. I take a breath, and I reached down to pick it up, and when I did, they were dead, and I was forced to grab what I could and run. I barricaded the door on my way out, but I'm sure it's very pissed.
I will say that the parts about you talking to it will be included. Just
I have to add those.
yeah, you
Okay.
Like you are giving the whole truth. You have no control or will.
Okay,
But it's okay. We'll just say that you did that, and
I'll add that. Yeah, we'll add that in.
effectively, Rebecca knows as much as you know about everything that happened, including who those people were and whatnot. But,
Okay, because I was just about to ask, who did you go with? And are you telling me that this bird was stopped by a door?
Since I could add the whole. Never mind. We'll just say I told her that part. The spirits. Me
Okay.
doing things.
Did you tell me what species of bird it was?
Would I know what species of bird it looked like?
Raven.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I would just say it looked like a large raven.
Yes, contrary to Charnock's insults, it is not a giant pigeon.
That would be so funny. Rebecca nods. She nods to what you say. She does not speak for what feels like a full minute before she breaks the silence, saying, Is it too much of an inconvenience, Mr. O'Connell, for me to ask you to report to me?
I look slightly confused. I did not think it was worth your time handling this trivial matter. I was going to lure the bird back to I was going to have a few of the senior members of the Weeping Moon accompany me to deal with the bird.
It sounds like they are incapable of handling this matter from what you tell me.
The men that...
Why did you not tell me so immediately? I know it can be an awfully weary journey from your church all the way to my haven.
I nod my head and mutter. As I said, I considered it would be a trivial non-issue for you, and an annoyance at best. I was going to handle it myself, and the grunts that died they weren't exactly of my caliber or better. I figured the higher ranks would be sufficient.
Common sense. You also weren't expecting the giant bird. Now you are.
We weren't expecting the bird. We weren't expecting anyone. It was an ambush. Now that we know it was coming, it would be easier to lay a trap and snare the beast. And then, perhaps, if you were to be interested, I could bring it to you for uses, if you might have.
She looks at you. She then stands from her chair, not bracing her hand to push her up or leaning forward to stand. She expends no more effort to rise than absolutely necessary. It is a movement that is entirely kindred, as she simply says, "Follow me, Mr. O'Connell." She walks out of the room, down the hall, her boots clicking on the hardwood floors. She doesn't spare a glance to see that Thomas is following. She simply expects it. She then goes down to the kitchen.
Therein you can see Edna and James are speaking. Edna leaned back against the counter. James leaning forward, his forearms braced on it. Between them is a couple of sandwiches and cups of tea, as well as a quarter of the way full bottle of liquor. They both straighten and look to you immediately as you come in. James is the first one to speak, stepping forward. Is everything all right, miss?
Oh yes, it's fine. She looks to Edna and she says, "If you don't mind, before the hour becomes too late, I would like you to go into town for some rose bushes. I have a sudden fancy for rose bushes to be planted in the garden. And if you spy upon any shop fronts for dresses, make a note of any dresses with an exquisite burgundy color. And I would like you to do this with no delay, if you please. Mr. Connell.
Yes, miss.
Would you mind accompanying her?"
Of course. I'd be happy to. Should we take the carriage?
You may.
I'll be sure to leave a pair of my work shoes by the door, just so it doesn't seem the house is unattended.
She gives a nod. Thank you.
Edna bows low and very quickly speeds out of the room, almost as if she feels like she has to get out before she's in trouble. Whereas James takes his time to pick up what's left of his sandwich before quickly exiting the room, heading to get his coat and prepare the carriage.
As they leave, Rebecca doesn't turn to look at them or Thomas. Instead, she seems to stand there for a moment longer until she appears satisfied that they've left. Then she moves deeper into the room She would stop between the countertop and table that I imagine would be in the center of the room. Rather large and sturdy table. She then finally turns to Thomas with a slight gesture for the hand of him to approach.
He would do so.
Kneel, Mr. O'Connell.
He would do so.
Rebecca reaches over and pulls out one of the knives in the kitchen. Large, rather hefty knife. She uses it to slit her wrist, though it doesn't bleed very much, and then proffers it to Thomas. Drink.
Thank you. I apologize for the deceit.
She simply looks down at him as he drinks of her blood. She only allows so much for him to take one mouthful's worth before pulling it away. Stand.
Standing up, he would feel a little bit more invigorated as he wipes his lips.
Now place your left hand on the table.
He would do so.
Rebecca quickly and swiftly would bring the blade down on his wrist to sever his hand.
The blade cleanly slices downward through his wrist and out the other side. Thomas, you cannot help but scream as what follows is a brief, singular, as though she's chopping a carrot as your hand is severed from your wrist, leaving a bleeding, aching stump that you can feel the pain of which locking up your arm and the stump hotly bleeding, your heart aching at the thought of this person who you feel so sorry for making them punish you this way. You feel both that you deserve it and heartbroken that they would abuse you like this.
The next time that you think to not immediately inform me of a threat, the next time that you think to lie to me, you will lose more than your hand. Is that understood, Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
From now on, at the end of each night, you will report back to me all that you have done that day and what you plan to do the following day. And if I am pleased with what I hear, I may be willing to gift you with enough blood to heal that. If you go to Edmund for more blood, I will take your other hand. Do you understand me, Mr. O'Connell?
I give a nod and explain. Forgive me.
Never forget, Mr. O'Connell, you are a ghoul, and by the grace of my generosity, you are allowed to live with the powers that my blood bestows upon you. Don't make me regret my generosity.
Thomas, becoming a bit pale in the face, would give a weak nod as he looked to his hand.
She reaches into her pocket, pulling out Thomas's notebook that she had him leave with her the night before, tosses it onto the table. Tonight you will take this list that I've written for you in that notebook, and you will go to the Westminster and research all those topics, as well as looking into the death records that the Westminster might keep pertaining to a particular soul in Highgate.
I mutter something. You'll have to excuse the sloppy handwriting. That was my writing hand.
Mr. O'Connell, you do not speak unless spoken to. That will be all, Mr. O'Connell. Before you leave, see to it that this mess is cleaned up. As Rebecca leaves the room for Thomas to clean up after himself, getting to the stairs out of view of him, she just braces herself against the railing, closing her eyes and bringing a hand up to rub her temples before she just sighs and continues upward. It's best that he learns harsh lessons sooner than make an even more grave mistake that will cost me and my clan more.